We welcome you all on this noon time, celebrating Singularity of Sounds with Scott Brooks, our artist and musician. Bravo for bringing everything, all the equipment, most of all for bringing yourself, huh? Scott shares that he grew up listening to his dad's collection of 78 RPMs. I looked that up. RPMs? It's the revolutions per minute. Of course, 78s, what, we have 45s?
33s.
And 33s. The music of that era prepared him. That era was the 30s and the 40s of his father's collection, prepared him for a life of music appreciation and performance across genres and decades. The folk, rock, blues, soul, bluegrass music, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, are all Scott's influences. Today, he's enjoying reviving some of the music from the swing era, and I love that. I could see people just moving and mixing it into his set lists of more contemporary music as he performs around Columbus. The background music you will hear is created in his musical instrument digital interface studio. Wow. And it specifically accompanies his singing and his electric mandolin solos in live shows, huh? And we're here and alive, right?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, yes.
Scott describes his music as connecting dots between Wilco, Sinatra, Pink Floyd, the Gershwins, Duke Ellington, Beatles, Sting, Springsteen, and Ray Charles. We leave any out there? You got them all?
Got them all.
So we get a sense with Scott of a live band, even though we have only one performer on the stage. Who's he? Scott, you feature music whose appeal will never fade. Just look at all the wonderfully faithful members here who are going to celebrate this music. And as you say, your program with us today starts in your studio, where you create all the music backgrounds to be played under your live vocals and electric mandolin. So just point those out there so we see.
A mandolin.
Yeah. And the live vocals and the recordings with you, right?
It's all on this little tablet right here.
Amazing. You share how the blues influenced the development of the popular song in America with all its, starting really in the mid-20s, you say, with Gershwin, discovering blues, which quickly developed into, now isn't this exciting, the way he's wording this? This is from Scott. Developed into the blossoming of the great American songbook, including writers, of course, we've mentioned, but like Jerome Kern, Irving Berlin, Cole Porter, and many songwriting teams that brought us the swing before the birth of rock and roll in the 50s. The history is amazing. The effect is that of a full band with singer, soloist, and Scott names this the singularity of sound. So it all comes together. So take it away. And you know something? I'm glad you wore that hat. It gave me the courage to wear my mother's. This is from, we were trying to figure out what decade this is. What do you say?
30s.
The 30s? Yeah, my mother was from the 30s, Bob was reminding me, don't forget to tell them, and I almost did, that David O. Selznick offered my mother a contract. Yeah, she was a Hollywood star for a time, but my father was writing to her and saying, I love you, come home. I'm glad he did. Yeah, so it's a story to tell, and I rejoice in that, in the songs of her time, and her hat and your hat. Scott, take it away.
All right. Hello, hello. Yeah. How's the volume here? It seems kind of loud, but I guess that's okay. All right. Well, anybody that's seen me play, I usually start out say we have one agenda today, and that's to have fun. Now, no, we're not going to take this stuff too seriously. It's going to sound a little bit, like this, with too much explanation possibly. But I've discovered these things. They're interesting to me, so I assume they might be interesting to you. So we're going to talk about the birth of one of the greatest periods in American music, the Great American Songbook. So what is that? Well, Ellen mentioned it. It's the music Gershwin and Jerome Kern and Irving Berlin and a bunch of other people that wrote music between 1925 and 1950. This 25-year period produced music that is really timeless. It's being performed today, but not just here, around the world. So let's start our story back in the 20s, or maybe the 10s. You've all heard the term Tin Pan Alley, of course. And if you think about it, back in the days, all the music publishers were on the same block in New York City. And they had their windows open because there was no air conditioning. And they're panning out these songs on their pianos, which, because there was no air conditioning, they weren't really very well tuned either. And so if you can imagine the sound of that, Tin Pan Alley. So what is it that made Tin Pan Alley become the Great American Songbook, which is so loved and respected today? And my theory is that it was the introduction of the blues into American culture that made this happen. American blues, it's not as old as a lot of people think. It's not as old as the Hills. Blues historians have traced it back in America just to the 1890s. And so our story starts today in 1903. W.C. Handy was a leader of a band called the Colored Knights of Pythias. And one day he heard a musician play a tune that he later called the strangest, weirdest music he'd ever heard. And it was weird to him because it was new. It was the blues. Well, W.C. Handy was born a son of a sharecropper, but by 1903 he was a skilled, musically literate, and well-traveled band leader. And he saw the possibilities of this new form of music. It took him a little while to get around to it, but in 1912, put a pin in that date, 1912, he rearranged this song for his band, and he called it the Memphis Blues. It was the first published blues song, and it transformed popular music forever. So to understand what makes blues the blues, let's start by listening to what the blues ain't. It ain't this. This was written in 1908, before the influence of blues in American music. My grandmother was born in 1898, and she used to sit down at our family piano and bang out this song. And even though it's more than 100 years old, I'll bet a lot of you know every single word in this song. So let's give it a shot here. So sing along. Oh, shine on, harvest moon, up in the sky. I ain't had no lovin' since January, February, June, or July. Snow time ain't no time to stay. outdoors and spoon. So shine on harvest moon for me and my gal. So snow time, it ain't no time to stay outdoors and spoon. So shine on harvest moon for me and my gal. Yeah, I like any song that uses the word spoon. Spoon. I mean, that's a great word. We still spoon, we just don't call it that anymore. I'm afraid to think what we do call it. Anyhow, that was the blues, that was not the blues. What makes the blues sound the way it does? It's pretty simple, really.
Darktown Strutter's Ball.
I'm getting to that. You're ahead of me. So what makes the blues sound the way it does? It's pretty simple, really. You take the 8-note scale. You know, everybody knows that scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you add 2 new notes. So listen to that. This goes like this. So you add those 2 notes. That's all you do. So these 2 notes, they add this whole new thing that lets you make different melodies and different chords. It's the scale that gives blues its bluesy sound. Yeah, so here we go. We're moving up the timeline now. W.C. Handy was 1912, and it took off in America. People loved the blues. And by the early 20s, there were a couple big blues hits, like this one we're listening to was Wabash Blues by Isham Jones. It's not really the blues, really. I think it's one of the first examples of white people co-opting black music. It's kind of got some blues notes in it, yeah, I guess, sprinkled here and there, and it's called Wabash Blues. But this shows you how blues was taking over the imagination of America. So at the same time, jazz was first recorded. Jazz can be the blues, but it's not necessarily the blues, but it has this common root in blues. And the original Dixieland Jazz Band was a racially integrated band out of New Orleans. And they recorded what is often cited as the first jazz recording, and it's Darktown Strutter's Ball. Now this is bluesy. This thing is all right. I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey. Better be ready about 8:30. Oh, baby, don't be late. I'm gonna be there when the band starts, honey. Just remember when you get there, honey. 2 steps, gonna handle it on. Dance with both my shoes when they play that Jelly Roll Blues tomorrow night at Darktown Strutter's Ball. Just remember when we get there, honey, 2 steps, gonna handle them all. I'll dance with both my shoes when they play that Jelly Roll Blues. Tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutters, tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutters, tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutters Ball. So, by 1920, that's right, all right. It's got to be in you with all that gumbo. So by the 1920s, it's a fact. Every musician worth his salt, or every songwriter knew about the blues. It was here. It was here to stay. And so let me introduce Jerome Kern. By 1920, Jerome Kern was a successful professional songwriter. He'd written dozens of Broadway shows. Later, he went on to write some of the great American Songbook songs, and I can't wait to play those for you, but that's ahead of ourselves. Notably, he was one of the first to incorporate the blues elements into his music. In 1920, he wrote a Broadway musical called Sally, and he introduced a song that used the blues notes. Here's how it sounded in 1920.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bluesy, I know. But it had blues in the music. In fact, Jerome Kern wrote Old Man River. So you can kind of see that's that type of blues that was being produced then. I'd do it a little different. I'd do it more like this. Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue. Remember, somewhere the sun is shining, so the right thing to do is let it shine for you. A heart full of joy and gladness will always banish sadness and strife. So always look for the silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life. So always look for the silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This will be difficult. That was hard, but worth it. All right. So we're moving on. George Gershwin, like Jerome Kern, began to incorporate this new scale into his music. In fact, the music scholar Isaac Goldberg wrote that the first time George Gershwin used a blues note was in a song called Yankee in 1920, same year as Look for the Silver Lining. And in 1922, George Gershwin and band leader Paul Whiteman worked in a musical review called Scandals, and they talked about creating a symphony using this new blues scale. And to this end, Whiteman commissioned George Gershwin to write the Rhapsody in Blue. They announced it as an experiment in modern music, and it was performed in 1924 by Whiteman and his orchestra and Gershwin on piano. So we're hearing what happens when you add two new notes to the 8-note musical scale. And it's my theory that in adding these two notes, it opened a door in Gershwin for the permission to add additional notes. I mean, if you can have a flatted fifth, why can't you have a sharp fifth, or a flatted nine, or a major seventh? I mean, he really added all these new notes to make this rich bedrock of Great American Songbook. So let's listen to an early Gershwin song from 1928 that uses some of these new extended chords to create this whole new sound. It starts here. There we go. Too many buttons to push. I could cry salty tears. Where have I been all these years? Little while, tell me now, how long has this been going on? There were chills up my spine and some thrills I can't define. Listen, sweet, I repeat, how long has this been going on? Oh, I feel like I could melt into heaven. I'm hurled. I know how Columbus felt, finding another world. Oh, kiss me once, then once more. What a dance I was before. What a break, for heaven's sake. How long has this been going on? Dear, when in your arms I creep this divine rendezvous, don't wake me if I'm asleep. Let me dream that it's true. Oh, kiss me twice, then once more. That makes thrice. Oh, let's make it four. What a break, for heaven's sake. How long has this been going on? Thank you so much. All right, so I'm not going to try to dive into music theory here. That's not what this is about. But let me describe it this way. Potatoes. Potatoes are great. Mashed potatoes, even better. Kind of bland, right? But wonderful. Nothing wrong with potatoes. But then we have gourmet foods, right? And gourmet foods have little unusual flavors, different textures and spices. They just have more going on, really, gourmet foods. I'm not going to say gourmet foods are better than potatoes. No, I'm not going to say that. But if you're looking for more, it's there. And the same with this new music behind the Great American Songbook. It's adventurous, it's spicy, it's enhanced, and this musical flavor caught on in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. It was our popular music. And to some extent, I guess it still is. Let me give you an example. Here's a Gershwin chord. Wow, what's that all about? That doesn't make sense. Doesn't it sound kind of discordant and everything? But let's put it in a sequence of chords from a Gershwin song, and it goes like this. It's the second chord. So I was talking over that, but it's the second chord. So it makes sense in its musical context. So Gershwin led the way, and soon all the other writers were admiring Gershwin in the most sincere way, most sincere form of flattery. So remember the name Isham Jones? He was that white guy that recorded one of those early blues songs that I said wasn't bluesy. Well, by 1926, he was absorbing this sound too, and he came out with one of the most beloved of the era, which a lot of you will be able to sing along, word for word, I know. It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be true, could make me be blue, and even be glad just to be sad, thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do for nobody else. Gave me a thrill with all your faults, dear, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you, it had to be you. And even be glad just to be sad, thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do for nobody else. Gave me a thrill with all your faults, dear, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you, it had to be you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a great song. All right, so we're moving on here. Let's talk about Irving Berlin. Irving Berlin's first big song was Alexander's Ragtime Band in 1911. This is way before the blues. I mean, this is not a bluesy song at all. It was kind of jazzy, though, and it was a worldwide sheet music hit in 1911. And I think it's worth revisiting because it's quite a song, quite the song, really. Oh my honey, better hurry up and let's go down there. Ain't you going to the meter man, ragged meter man? Oh my honey, let me take you to Alexander's Ragtime Brass Band. Ain't you coming along? Come on in here, Alexander's Ragtime Band. Come on in here. It's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before, so natural that you want to go to war. Ain't that the bestest band that am, my honey lamb? Come on along, let me take you by the hand. Up to the man who's the leader of the band. And if you want to hear old Swanee River played in ragtime, come on along, come on and hear Alexander's Ragtime Band. Come on and hear Alexander's Ragtime Band. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. So that wasn't bluesy. That was pre all of this. but it was pretty jazzy. Let's see, by 1920, Irving Berlin, like all of the working musicians, was starting to fall under the influence of Gershwin and his spicy, juicy harmonies. The ironic thing was that Irving Berlin couldn't really play the piano. He knew how to play on the black keys. That's it. Irving Berlin played on the black keys. So he had this special piano made that had a pedal in it, and it moved the mechanism behind the hammers so that he could play in different keys. And that was the whole purpose of that, but he ended up using it almost like a chromatic harmonica in his music to write these melodies that just shouldn't have happened otherwise. Like in this next song, listen to how a melody shifts keys. Right in the middle of the song, he goes, when all the things you plan need a helping hand, I will understand always. I mean, it's crazy the way it shifts like that. And it was just thanks to the pedal, I think, is what did that. And his great ear. I'll be loving you always with the love that's true always. When the things you've planned need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair, always. That's when I'll be there, always. Not for just an hour, not for just a day, not for just a year, but always. When the things you've planned need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair, always. That's when I'll be there, always. Not for just an hour, not for just a day, not for just a year, but always. All right. So I hope you're having fun. That's what we're here for. Like I said, there's a lot of gab, but I hope you're appreciating this history that I think is our American history. So the blues was really taken off by the 20s, you know. It was just alive. And Paul Whiteman's orchestra, you remember Paul Whiteman because he was with George Gershwin in the Rhapsody of Blue. Anyhow, he was a very successful orchestra, and they had this song that they wrote that's kind of fanciful and crazy and mythological, kind of about the birth of the blues, because that's what people were interested in. They heard the breeze in the trees, singing weird melodies, and they made that the start of the blues. And from a jail came a wail of a down-hearted frail, and they played that as part of the blues. Now from a whippoorwill high on a hill, they took a new note. They pushed it through a horn till it was worn into a blue note. And then they nursed it, they rehearsed it, and they gave out the news that the Southland gave birth to the blues. From a whippoorwill high on a hill, they took a new note. They pushed it through a horn till it was worn into a blue note. And then they nursed it, they rehearsed it, and they gave out the news that the Southland gave birth to the blues, that the Southland gave birth to the blues. Yeah. So people loved this new blues stuff, and that was going around. 1926, there was so many great things, and Fats Waller, the great Fats Waller, signed with the Victor Talking Machine Company, which of course later became RCA Victor, for a series of records. And he was with RCA Victory for his whole career, and he wrote great songs like this one. No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. I know for certain the one I love. I'm through with flirting, it's you that I'm dreaming of. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. Oh yeah, like Jack Horner in the corner. I don't go nowhere, what do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Believe me, I don't stay out late, don't care to go. I'm home about 8, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. Like Jack Horner in a corner, I don't go nowhere. What do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Believe me, I don't stay out late, I don't care to go. I'm home about 8, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. Well, ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you. Yeah, the great Fats Waller. So we got Cole Porter, an Indiana boy born right across the border there in Peru, Indiana. He attended Yale Law School, and he was going to be an attorney because his grandfather wanted him to be an attorney. But he was a songwriter, and by 1915, he was writing music on Broadway. So 15 was a little bit before our timeline, right? And by 1921, he was getting with it. He wrote a song called Blue Boy Blues. Can you get any bluer than that? Blue Boy Blues, 1921. And he was still struggling at that point in his career. And in fact, it's funny, there's an interesting story how Irving Berlin saved Cole Porter's career. Cole Porter had a Broadway show that was bombing in 1920. It was going nowhere. And Irving Berlin took out a full-page ad that said, "This is the best musical comedy I've ever heard." And it saved the Broadway show and probably saved Cole Porter's career, so that he could go on to write things like maybe this one. Night and day, you are the one, only you beneath the moon or under the sun. Whether near to me or far, it's no matter, darling. Where you are, I think of you. Night and day, day and night. Why is it so that this longing for you follows wherever I go? The roaring traffic boom in the silence of my lonely room, I think of you. Night and day, night and day, under the hide of me, there's an oh such a hungry yearning burning inside of me. But this torment won't be through till you let me spend my life making love to you, night and day. Such a hungry yearning burning inside of me. But this torment won't be through till you let me spend my life making love to you, night and day. Oh yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. So the 1920s was characterized by the rise and the recognition of the blues, and by these pioneers who gave birth to this new genre. And as we move into the 30s now, we're starting to see the maturation of this art form. The pages of the Great American Songbook, excuse me, just a minute, we're beginning to fill up with the best of this era. Gershwin released I Got Rhythm. And that set up a chord sequence that became the foundation of just dozens of jazz songs that followed. It's so well used that the jazz guys just call it the rhythm changes. I got rhythm, I got music, I got my gal who can ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my gal who can ask for anything more. Well, old man trouble, I don't mind him. You're not gonna find him round my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my gal who can ask for anything more. Old man trouble, I don't mind him. You're not gonna find him round my door. I got sweet dreams, I've got in green pastures, I got my gal who can ask for anything more, who can ask for anything more. Oh yeah. So if you love a Gershwin tune, here's another one for you. This is a great lyric too by Ira Gershwin, his brother. It's wonderful marvelous that you should care for me. Oh, it's awful nice, it's paradise, it's what I love to see. You made my life so glamorous, you can't blame me for feeling amorous, amorous, oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me. My dear, it's four-leaf clover time. From now on, my heart's been working overtime. Oh, it's wonderful, and it's marvelous that you should care for me, that you should care for little old me. Yeah. So I'm already realizing there's no way I'm going to cover all of this today. So we'll touch on a few more things. We got Richard Rodgers and Lawrence Hart. You know, couple guys, they started in 1919, two young guys writing music together. And, you know, music is a hard life, but they finally kind of made it in 1930s when MGM Studios signed them up to write some music for some movies. And they started to produce stuff like this. Well, she gets too hungry for dinner at 8. She loves the theater, but never comes late. She'd never bother with people she'd hate. That's why the lady is a tramp. She's a tramp. She doesn't like crap games of barons and earls. Won't go to Harlem in ermine and pearls, and won't dish the dirt with the rest of the girls. That's why the lady is a tramp. She loves the free, fresh, loves the wind in her hair, life without care. She's broke, but it's okay. It's California, it's cold and it's damp. That's why the lady is a tramp. Life without care. She's broke, but it's okay. Hates California, it's cold and it's damp. That's why the lady is, that's why the lady is, that's why the lady is a tramp. Yeah. Thank you. So earlier on, I promised that I would play some Jerome Kern songs later on in the program, and now it's time. Jerome Kern. And the next two, if I get a chance to play them both, feature the lyrics of Dorothy Fields. And she was an exceptional lyricist in her own right, but she was also exceptional because I think she was the only woman I've been able to find that was working in the music business in those early days. And she's responsible for so many great songs that you would know. I'm not going to list them here. But this story is about Kern. He just finished writing one of his songs, and he called up Dorothy Fields and said, come on in, I want to play this song for you and see if you're interested in writing some lyrics for it. So she sat down, he played a song. He looked over to her for comments, and poor Dorothy, she was speechless. She had tears running down her face. She couldn't even speak. She was so moved by the song. And so the question is, did she rise to the occasion and write the lyrics that fit the song? I would say she did. Someday, when I'm awfully low and the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. You're lovely with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love you just the way you look tonight. With each word, your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose touches my foolish heart. You're so lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. You're so lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Yeah. So let's jump into another of their songs. Dorothy Fields, Jerome Kern. It's 1936, by the way. Nothing's impossible, I have found. For when my chin is on the ground, I pick myself up, dust myself off, start all over again. Don't lose your confidence if you slip. Be grateful for the pleasant trip and pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. Work like a soul inspired when the battle of the day is won. You may be sick and tired, but you'll be a man, my son. Will you remember that famous man who had to fall to rise again? He picked himself up, dusted himself off, started all over again. Work like a soul inspired inspired till the battle of the day is won. You may be sick and tired, but you'll be a man, my son. Will you remember that famous man who had to fall to rise again? He picked himself up, dusted himself off, started all over again. So pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. Yeah. So I think we have time for one more song, and I'm jumping way ahead for this last one. And this to me, this is interesting because it's part of this era of this great American songbook, but it also kind of forecasts what I would call modern music to come. And if you listen to it, it's a Johnny Mercer song, and it's got the feel. It's got 1 foot in of the era we just got through, and it's kind of got 1 foot in the next era. So thanks for coming today. I really appreciate it. Thank you. The falling leaves drift by my window, the autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kisses, the sunburned hands I used to hold. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear oh, winter song. Still I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear oh, winter song. Still I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. When autumn leaves start to fall. When autumn leaves start to fall. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.